Hi, so welcome to a new video in the course on combinatorics. This is going to be a very short video on infinite series, and you might be wondering why a video on infinite series in a course on combinatorics. So the idea is to discuss a very powerful counting technique called generating functions. So I want to teach how to handle generating functions in the near future, but we cannot understand generating functions without knowing a little bit about infinite series and power series. Okay, so infinite series and power series expansions, we need to know these two ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of short videos on infinite series and power series, and once we have that basics covered, then we'll move on to the generating functions topic, which is a fairly advanced but very powerful technique for counting, right? So let me just get to it. What is an infinite series? Basically, before we discuss infinite series, let's define a sequence. Basically, a sequence an is just a set of terms, right? Is a set of terms where the definition is provided by an. Set of terms where each term is basically a real number. Each term is a real number. It could be, if you are talking about sequences in reals, then each term is a real. Otherwise, it could even be complex numbers. So examples of sequences are an is equal to root n, an is equal to minus 1 power n plus 1, 1 by n. What does this mean? That nth term is root n. So first term is basically root 1, a2 will be root 2, and so on. The sequence becomes root 1, root 2, root 3, so on. So this is just a terminology by which we define any sequence. Once we understand that, we want to understand two concepts. What is convergence and divergence of a sequence? Convergence and divergence of a sequence. So this idea is very close to the idea of limit of a function. So anybody who has done a little bit of basic calculus will be able to appreciate the idea of convergence or divergence. So we say, let's write the definition. We say that the sequence an converges to a number, let's say we call that number L, if for every positive number delta, there corresponds an integer n, an integer capital N, such that for all small n greater than capital N, it implies that an minus L is less than delta. So what does this mean? This means that the sequence will be called as converging to a particular number L if no matter what delta you pick, there is an actual integer capital N, after which all terms of the sequence will become really close to that L, right? Will become closer to L than E or epsilon, right? So what it means is basically the terms are in an epsilon neighborhood of L. Epsilon neighborhood of L. I will just explain these ideas in the next slide. So let's take L here, let's say, right? So if you say an minus L is less than epsilon, what we mean is that an minus L could be less than epsilon and minus epsilon is less than this. So an is basically less than L minus this to L plus this, right? So we construct 2 points which decide the neighborhood of L, right? L minus epsilon to L plus epsilon. So basically an is supposed to lie inside this, right? An is supposed to lie inside this interval around L, right? So that is why we call it a E neighborhood of L. E neighborhood of L. So what does the converging definition mean, right? So it means that no matter what epsilon you pick, no matter what epsilon you pick, it could be epsilon could be really small. Epsilon could be say 0.001. So that therefore what it means is saying, can you get inside this neighborhood L minus 0.001 to L plus 0.001. So what the definition says is, no matter what epsilon you pick, there will be a capital N integer. There will be an integer capital N such that every term, of the sequence after capital N, every term of sequence AN where N is greater than capital N will definitely lie in that neighborhood, will definitely lie inside that interval, right? So I hope you appreciate that. That means that beyond N, like there will be some N after which all terms lie inside that neighborhood, right? So that is the meaning of converging. However, what is the meaning of diverging then? Diverging means that this limit does not exist. Basically, you cannot find a neighborhood inside which all terms beyond a particular N will lie, right? So what we say officially is, if no such number L exists, where every term beyond small capital N lies inside a E neighborhood, we say that the sequence diverges. We say that sequence AN diverges. So I hope you understand the definition of converging and diverging. We write limit n tends to infinity AN is equal to L if AN sequence converges to L. So I hope you understand this idea now. If you don't, you need to revisit the discussion so far. And I would recommend this source to study this topic. Thomas and Feeney's Calculus. Thomas and Feeney's Calculus has a very nice section. It is in chapter 8 of Thomas and Feeney. And the chapter name is Infinite Series. You need to study that to be able to understand this a little better. So I recommend this highly. So you should understand converging and diverging meanings. Okay. We can also discuss a little bit about what makes a sequence particularly converging, right? So let's think about it. We will define something called a non-decreasing sequence. Non-decreasing sequence. Non-decreasing sequence AN, it has a property such that every AN is less than equal to AN plus 1. Non-decreasing means every term, the next term is basically higher than the previous term, right? So this is one term, the non-decreasing. After that, we'll talk about something called a bounded sequence. Bounded sequence is obvious, just like the name suggests. Every term of this is less than some number, say m. Every term AN is less than equal to m, right? So in relation to this, we can also talk about what is a least upper bound. Least upper bound. So basically, there could be many integers which are greater than all terms of a sequence, right? There could be m, n, many integers which satisfy this relation that AN is less than m, n, o, p, many such integers. However, there will be one of them which will be the lowest of these integers, right? So AN is less than equal to m, and no integer less than m satisfies this, right? No number less than 1 m satisfies this, right? This condition. So it will be called the least upper bound. I'm making a mistake when I'm saying integer all the time. It's all numbers. These are all for real numbers, right? So least upper bound is the lowest possible upper bound, right? So that is obvious. Then we have a theorem which will state without proof. We'll say, because the proof probably belongs in an analysis course. Right now, we are not discussing analysis. I want to just introduce these ideas so that we can do generating functions. So what is the proof? Theorem: a non-decreasing sequence that is bounded from above. Non-decreasing sequence bounded from above always has a least upper bound, This follows from the fact that real numbers are complete or dense in nature, and it converges, the non-decreasing sequence converges only to the least upper bound. if that exists. So if a non-decreasing sequence is convergent, it will converge to the least upper bound, right? So this is something that you should know. Then let's quickly define our infinite series. What is an infinite series? So infinite series is basically, if you have a sequence an, then the expression a1 plus a2 plus all the terms are being added. This expression is called an infinite series. This is an infinite series. And if you say define the sequence of sums, sequence of partial sums like this, let's say we define S1 to be A1, S2 to be A1 plus A2, right? And so on. We are defining partial sums. So this is sum up to first term, this is sum up to second term, this is sum up to nth term till n, and so on. You keep defining partial sums like that. Sn is the nth partial sum, nth partial sum, right? Then if the sequence of partial sums which is the Sn sequence, if that sequence converges to L, converges to a limit L, what does it mean to be converging to L? It means the previous definition that we saw for converging sequence, right? So if it converges to L, basically, then we say that the series converges. The series converges, and its sum is L. And its sum is L. So if the sequence of partial sums is converging, then we say the series is converging, right? And its sum is L. So this is infinite series. If the series is not converging and there is no such limit, then we say that the series diverges. Now, there are many detailed tests for convergence and divergence, tests for convergence and divergence of a series. So you probably already know one test for convergence and divergence. So everyone might have heard of a GP, right? And GP sum to n terms, Sn, will become a 1 minus r power n by 1 minus r. This is there in all standard textbooks. So if the GP sequence of partial sums, see, this is nth sum, right? You could put n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, you get a sequence of partial sums here, right? And there are more such sums in the future. So this is an infinite series, let's say. Now this infinite series converges, Sn converges to L only if r, mod r, is less than 1. Because if you take limit n tends to infinity Sn, you will get a minus a r power n by 1 minus r. And if n tends to infinity and mod r is greater than 1, then this sequence will diverge, right? It will become minus infinity, because if something greater than 1 is raised to the power infinity, that becomes infinity. So it will be a minus infinity by 1 minus r, which will be minus infinity, right? So this will definitely diverge. Actually, it will be plus infinity because the denominator also has a negative sign, the negative something, right? But that doesn't matter. It will diverge if mod r is greater than 1. However, if mod r is less than 1, right, then r power n basically tends to 0, and you get the limiting value of a by 1 minus r. This is your L. This is your sum to infinity of the GP, right? This is the value to which the geometric progression, which is an infinite series of partial sums, converges to as n tends to infinity. Now, there are many tests for convergence of infinite series. So examples of tests are nth term test, then there is integral test, there is ratio test, integral test, ratio test, root test, nth root test. So I am not going to go into that right now. So there are many ways basically in which you can decide whether a particular infinite series is convergent or divergent, but that probably belongs in an analysis course. So we'll not be focusing on that right now. I just wanted to introduce infinite series, sequences, and convergence, divergence notions in this video. The next video will briefly talk about power series and Taylor's and Maclaurin's theorems and all, and then we are ready for doing generating functions. Okay, so that's the plan, and the next videos will be out shortly. Also, we are on 596 subscribers, guys. As discussed and promised earlier, when we hit 600, we'll be launching new courses. Due to popular demand, people want a classical physics course first. So more people want classical physics. So we will be starting with a classical physics course here. And I will, in the first video for the course, I will outline how we will go about doing it. The references for this will be David Morin, Introduction to Classical Mechanics. Also, you can also refer to other standard textbooks for mechanics. Obviously, basics will be from HCV, but we'll not be focusing on HCV so much. We'll be doing a little advanced stuff here. David Morin is good. You can also look at, 1 second, just hold on. You can also look at Mechanics by Kleppner and Kolenkov, if you have heard of it. Kleppner and Kolenkov, and Classical Dynamics of Systems and Particles by Marion Thornton. Marion Thornton, Classical Dynamics and all. There are many textbooks. You don't need to refer to these. I would recommend just stick to Morin and go to the Introduction to Mechanics book. Introductory Mechanics with Problems and Solutions. That is a slightly easier book. What we will be doing is slightly more advanced, which is Introduction to Classical Mechanics, which is mostly geared towards an undergraduate physics education. So this will be following. I'm very excited about the course, and I'll be probably covering a lot of things that will be new for you. Post that, once we hit 700 subscribers, we will go to the inequalities course that several people also want that. So 700 subscribers is the target for the inequalities course. What is special about this course is we'll be solving a lot of contest problems. So I have planned 100 plus contest problems in this course, and we'll be doing a lot of problem solving here. So I hope you're excited. We are going to do classical physics, and that course will probably take us 2 to 3 months at least to properly do. 2-3 months I anticipate it going on for, probably even more. And inequalities, once we hit 700 subs, we will launch the inequalities course as well. So see you soon. Hope you like the content and continue to support me. Thank you.